everybody, and welcome back to the internet's best reactions. Today we are talking, discussing, reflecting, and probably basking in some glory from the Austrian Grand Prix. Yes, finally! Myself and other Charles Leclerc fans are not upset coming into an internet's best reactions. Your tweets, by the way, were absolutely top notch. So let's dive into them right now. Okay, let's start at the very beginning, where we always begin at Alex Stanger 1993. Hamilton and Albon looking at that Russell versus Perez incident. Of course, lap one, the beginning. It was not as chaotic as we would have maybe thought for the first sort of three positions, but then Russell and Perez just fancied replicating what we've seen so many times at turn 4, which is a crash. And Russell, of course, kind of on the inside, just clips the curb a tiny bit, pushes his car ever so slightly wide, and Perez is there in a Red Bull, and of course he ends up in the gravel after pretty big contact. Russell gets a 5-second penalty. I don't think it wasn't malicious or anything like that from Russell, and he did pretty much everything he could. In my opinion, the curb obviously pushed him a tiny bit, but apart from that, he was very tight to the inside curb, rather than others that we saw with Gasly and Vettel, which was a lot more, let's say, chaotic. But yeah, Perez obviously came off really badly, had damage, and then they retired him. So no last to first from Sergio today. At V2 Husker 46, Russell to Perez on lap 1. I don't think it was as bargy as that, to be honest with you. Russell did everything he could with a heavy tank of fuel on board. But yeah, I still think he deserved the penalty. He got quite a bit of damage and still managed to finish P4. What is it with Mercedes always utilising and maximising, that's the word, results? 3rd and 4th. They just pick up points all the time this season. At JLiving4 today, live look at the start of the Austrian GP. Now let's talk a little bit about this, shall we? Now, I'm a big fan of atmosphere, hype, especially at Grand Prix, you know, where you can almost feel the energy coming through the microphones at a track, and that's awesome. You know, they're cheering for overtakes and their favourite drivers, but then the flares on lap 1 especially was pretty mad. Like, at what point do they actually go through a smokescreen that they can't see the car ahead? And it's kind of asking for a bit of an accident, in my opinion. I don't mind the odd flare and, oh, that's quite cool, but the amount that actually came onto the track was a little bit hazardous, in my opinion. So not a fan of that. And also probably worth mentioning at this time, as we're talking about being at the track, there's been a lot of reports of fans just being harassed and abused whilst at the track, and that is just something you do not want to hear. I know that, you know, the likes of F1 Twitter is pretty diabolical, but to hear it actually kind of pushing onto real life and people not being able to go and see their favourite sport in the comfort of knowing that they wouldn't be harassed by somebody, it's really sad. So I'm really hoping that Formula 1 genuinely makes steps to improving this, whether that's circuit security or whatever. But it is really sad to see. So if you are one of those people that were harassed this weekend, I'm really sorry on behalf of all Formula 1 fans. At Luke Grego, the TV directors when battles start happening. Oh, I do love a little rant on TV direction. And yeah, look, overall wasn't too bad. But what is it with them showing lap 1 replays at very crucial parts of a Grand Prix? Like, I think it was lap 5, and Leclerc had just got DRS on Verstappen. It was around 7/10, and they went, guys, it's time. They're fighting. Press the big red replay button. Boom. And then we had about 170 replays. Maybe not that many. But I feel like we moan about it every weekend. But sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. There are a few moments, but overall can't complain too much. Another big talking point from the Austrian Grand Prix was track limits and penalties genuinely being awarded as if you were playing the F1 22 game. At Lizard_Adam, end of the race be like an F1 lobby. There genuinely was. There was penalties for Lando, and I think a few others were flying around. Loads of warnings were being given out. I think Leclerc got 2 very early on, and I was extremely concerned. And not the only time I was concerned during the race, as you will probably know. But yeah, the stewards were properly on it this weekend around track limits, and there is actually a video coming out tomorrow all about why this was. So look forward to that. It'll be coming out on Monday, but yeah, I was expecting maybe a few more penalties by the end of the race, but there were still quite a few dished out. This meme makes me laugh a lot. Razvan PTR26. Mercedes drivers, whenever they see a Red Bull around the outside of turn 4. Yeah, not the only time that's happened. Of course, Hamilton and Albon. Albon could have easily won that race had he stuck that round the outside on fresher tyres. And again, we saw George Russell and Sergio Perez coming together, both in the same 2 cars. At Melon_Twitch, track limits. You get a warning and you get a warning. Everyone gets a warning. What do you think to that level of track limit sort of inspection? Are we a fan? Are we quite happy with all the drivers being penalised and warned over extending, or would you rather have it a little bit more lenient and we don't have to be worrying about our favourite driver potentially picking up a quite harsh penalty? At Chicken Lababdar, Mick Schumacher today. What has happened? He has just turned it up to 11 and just been driving really well. Now, I'm not saying K-Mag is the GOAT, but he is certainly a good benchmark to be working yourself against, and he's gone from being nowhere, crashing everywhere, to genuinely being, well, quicker today, finishing P6. Mick in P6 after not being able to pick up points, gets 8 today, double Haas points finish. I am buzzing for the team. At Philip_Rosso, F1 drivers this weekend. They just love doing an audacious move into corner, like the midfield. I know we're talking about the corners and the overtakes, but it's kind of sort of combined in with the midfield because they were just, I felt like every time we went on board with someone, they were overtaking. It was a brilliant race. Now, the battle for the lead wasn't exactly, going down to the wire. I say it wasn't going down to the wire. I mean, I was absolutely bricking myself over Leclerc's problems, but you couldn't say it was an absolute worldie for the lead. But the midfield were sensational. They were just battling all the time. At one point, there was a 5-car battle, which I think we've got a few memes coming up for. Midfield, honestly, so good. At Joeppy6, Hamilton, my tyres are still good. All F1 fans be like. We've heard that a few times this season, haven't we? Maybe it's because previously he was in a dominating Mercedes and they'd never really showed Hamilton saying his tyres are good because no one cares about that. But the jeopardy of Hamilton saying his tyres are gone, we'll play that in the Mercedes dominating era. But yeah, Hamilton, another podium, 3 on the bounce. Okay, a little bit of good fortune, obviously, with Sainz DNFing and Perez getting yeeted by Russell. But still, 3 podiums in the last 3 is very good going from Lewis. Now, I know I said about the 5-car battle, and here it is at Formula Ryan 21, the battle between K-Mag, Zhou, Norris, Schumacher and Alonso. I cannot believe they all came out unscathed. It was brilliant stuff, great to watch, and just imagine if that 5-car battle was for the lead. Just take out the front 7 or whatever it was at the time, and just have that for the lead. At Sick Note Mickey21, braking, Ferrari on bad pit stops, I was very concerned. I'm not going to lie to you. Coming into this Grand Prix, there was so much heartbreak and things going wrong. I was just ready for another disaster class. But it didn't happen. Leclerc won. Leclerc won the race. Since Australia, I have waited to say that. Since Australia! He hasn't been on the podium since Miami. Feels good. And the mad thing is, from Silverstone, I was fuming over Leclerc gaining 6 points on Verstappen. I'm now buzzing, and Leclerc's only gained 5 points because of the sprint. How does that work? At Jaron Holder, Ferrari didn't mess up Charles' pit stop / strategy. They didn't. They almost broke his throttle, though, which was the scariest moment ever. The amount of Charles team radios that came up. I was like, nope, don't want to watch. Stop playing Charles' team radio. If he's got a problem, I don't want to hear about it. Here's another tweet about track limits. YMusi007. Every time someone exceeds 5 centimetres of track limit. That's a good meme, actually. It's a very good meme. Well done. Now, this was probably my favourite moment of the race, and no, it wasn't Charles Leclerc winning. At Camborn_97, Fernando Alonso to Yuki. Fernando is just the greatest bit of television in Formula 1 you could ask for. He was doing his usual thing at the start. Of course, he was at the back of the grid and he was just waiting for everyone to line up on the grid and he was just doing his lovely little burnouts. But this one, where Yuki just squeezes him out of turn 3. Fernando did not like that. He had DRS, got side by side, and then wags his finger whilst racing him. whilst racing him. I know we see it in practice sometimes and flipping the bird this and that, but he was genuinely racing him up the inside and then wanted to send a message over to Yuki, which was just, it's just brilliant, wasn't it? At Carlos the Sainz be like. Now this was, of course, before Carlos had his engine failure and things started to go wrong. But Plan E, Tommy, quite funnily, we do our live streams over on Twitch now, you may have known, WTF1 Official if you want to go check it out. Tommy said about maybe a minute before it happened that Ferrari were probably going to come over the team radio and say Plan F or Plan Y. And it turns out they came over and said Plan E for Carlos, which maybe turned out for engine explode. At its merry work, the Ferraris trying to lap people through all the midfield battles. Of course, the midfield was crazy, and the Ferraris were like something out of Le Mans, having to drive past different class cars. I was genuinely worried for that as well. The amount of times Leclerc would lose 2 seconds just going through a gaggle of 4 cars, but turned out all right. Just lots of worry. Can you tell I was worried this race? At Hatesell, this race feels familiar. The boy who cried track limits. Different. Well done. At Dakota Lumsden, trying to work out who's got what penalties without a penalty graphic. Now, I think that would be quite a nice inclusion, actually, for the Formula 1 broadcast, is having, you know how you have it in Formula 1 games, where they'll have a little +5 next to your name, so then both you and everyone in the lobby knows you've got a penalty. Having that for people carrying 5-second penalties, I think would be ideal for the graphics. Just a little one, doesn't have to be big in bold letters, just a little +5S, and you're flying. Instead, we have to guess, and that was quite difficult when lots of people were getting warnings and penalties. Right, we're now on to the race where, of course, Carlos Sainz's engine exploded. At Alexander Zarb 1, Matt looking at Charles's car, praying to not see any smoke. Now, I am not even joking. About 2-3 minutes before Carlos Sainz's engine blew up, I tweeted, "It's a good day to be a Charles Leclerc fan," or something along those lines. And then one Ferrari just blows up. I'm thinking, what? Like, for example, Tommy's baby, Grace, has the powers to allow whoever onesie she wears to win the race. Grace was actually wearing a Ferrari onesie this weekend. Me, on the other hand, whenever I tweet, something goes wrong. In qualifying, I said Mercedes are back, and both of them crashed in that session. I then stupidly said that it was a good day to be a Charles Leclerc fan, and then the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz blew up, and then the throttle got stuck on Leclerc's car. I was in big trouble. Another tweet about Carlos's failure. At Daily I Light. Ugh. I've seen that meme many times, but it looked like it was coming out once again for both Ferrari drivers, but thankfully it was only one. But I still feel bad for Carlos. At Aguzman06, what I imagine Matty WTF1 looks like every time a Leclerc radio box comes up on screen. It summed me up pretty nicely. On the Twitch watch along, my heart was going at a right rate of knots. I was 1, thinking, what have I done by tweeting about Leclerc? But 2, thinking, what do I do if I have more heartbreak? Like, my heart's in pieces after the last 5 or so races. I don't know what it would have done if Leclerc didn't win Austria.
Who has won Tweet of the Week?
Right, Tweet of the Week time now, and it goes to Martin Theo1. I think I speak for all Ferrari fans. I fear no man, but that thing scares me. Yep, 100% Martin. You've got the nail on the head. I was so scared. At DRS Pod, Schumacher P6. I know we mentioned him, but it has to be said, he is the GOAT. Lots of Michael Schumacher genes running through Mick Schumacher's body today, and I want to see more of it. I love it. And did you see his interview, by the way, after the sprint race? Mick Schumacher entering his villain era, like, genuinely was so peeved at what went on, and I love it. All this nicey, I'm sorry for swearing on the team radio. Scrap that. Let's get the Mick Schumacher just bleeping everywhere.
It's time for Social Media Team Championship.
Right, Social Media Team Championship time now. Let's see who has scored points for the Austrian Grand Prix. In third place, we have Alpine F1 with a very simple finger up emoji, of course, paying tribute to Alonso with that amazing wagging moment. So well done, Alpine. In second place, we have Haas F1. Yeah, boys! Another amazing weekend. That's back-to-back double point scores. And then an amazing picture. Good stuff. Good stuff. And finally, the winners of the Social Media Team Championship have to go to Mercedes AMG F1. They're going to score points for quite a few posts, but they only get one position, and it is P1. This is going to be fun. It was not. Of course, with their crashing in qualifying. They made up for it, though. P3, P4, unbelievable drive from the pair of them.
And now it's time for Race Rundown with your host, Matthew Gallagher.
Race rundown time now, and the finishers of the Austrian Grand Prix were Leclerc. Sorry, I messed up, but I just wanted to say Leclerc. Really, enunciate it, you know? Leclerc. Lovely. Here we go, the non-finishers were Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell. Who is Russell? Leclerc, Hamilton, Russell, Ocon. Yep, there was 4 finishers. Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, lock on. Every time I say lock on, it's because Russell lock on. You know what I mean? Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell. I need it bigger. I need it bigger on my screen. Here we go. Big zoom. Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc. Did I just try and say Leclerc for P5? Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell. It's amazing how I can do it in one take sometimes, and then in a million takes the next day. Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, Ocon, Schumacher, Norris, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Alonso. I'm gonna lose my mind. Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, Ocon, Schumacher, Norris, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Alonso. I can't do it. I actually can't do it today. Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, Ocon, Schumacher, Norris, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Alonso, Bottas, Albon, Stroll, Zhou, Gasly, Tsunoda, Vettel. Yes. Sainz, Latifi, Perez with the non-finishers. Sainz, Latifi, Perez. It's so hot in here, I can't tell you. It's so hot in England right now, and this is a small room with a lot of stuff going on. Right, that is it. Thank you so much for watching the internet's best reactions to the Austrian Grand Prix. Thank you, as always, for the amazing support that you bring this series and using hashtag WTF1 to get involved with your memes. It's been awesome to bring this series for so long, and I hope you continue watching. It was a pretty decent race. Of course, we next have the French Grand Prix, so we'll have to prepare for that one. But until then, hashtag WTF1 if you want to get involved next time, potentially win an amazing Fanatec prize. Big shout out to Fanatec for, of course, sponsoring this series, and that is it. We'll see a reactive video tomorrow. You'll see a podcast Tuesday unless you are a Team WTF1 member, and you'll see it live on Monday instead. Lots of love. See you soon. Bye bye. Leclerc won.